According to a new 2025 Pew Research report, girls are now less likely to want to marry than boys. Those who desire to marry has dropped significantly, going down to 61% from previous years in the 70 and 80 percentage. This is a major shift in terms of what's happening among Generation Z. And so today we're going to talk about that. Greetings, beloved. I am Coach Felecia Killings, founder and CEO of the Felecia Killings Foundation and the Conscious Conservative Movement. We are a conscious conservative leadership organization and a think tank. And what we do within our think tank is we gather significant data, qualitative data, and qualitative data, and we turn this into a way for us to have really great conversations and detailed information about how we can shift things in a more positive direction. Over the past couple of videos, I have shared with you some of the stats related to marriages and relationships within America, specifically as it relates to Black Americans, because over at the foundation, what we are doing is, as we have successfully done great things in terms of politics, we are now merging into the second phase, which is where we are talking about our social empires. So the foundation is going to be partnering with several different ministries and organizations, such as Nicole Pinkston's Iconic Marriages. I'm also going to think about how I can collaborate with my parents back home and their ministry, because they do a lot of training as it relates to helping men and women who desire to get married. They go through the process. I know it because I did it growing up. It wasn't formalized, but it was very significant and empowering. And so what we are doing is we have created a new program called the CCM Love, Marriage, and Family Leadership Program. And so a part of that includes us bringing together individuals, spiritual leaders, marriage coaches, financial coaches, all of these individuals who can help provide an empowering experience for single men and single women, as well as couples who want to learn how to build these powerful social empires by doing things God's way. So again, a part of the YouTube element is me coming on here and sharing with you some of this data and helping those of you to make sense of it. Now, if you are a part of culture, then you already know yourself that there are certain things happening within these spheres, such as some of the trends that are taking place. Like yesterday, I talked about the divorce effect, I believe that's what it's called, or the glow up stage, and how we have so many of these older women who are going on TikTok, they're going on Instagram, and they are sharing their stories about how they have just experienced this empowering moment after they have divorced their husbands. And that trend is, at this point, is very profitable. I believe, and so do others, that it's very disastrous and destructive, but you can go and watch that video for yourself. But anyways, if we don't have some kind of counter message, as well as a strategic program that empowers single men and single women, then we're going to see more of these declines in marriages, especially in America, but in particular as it relates to Black America. Now, in one of the first videos that I talked about, I was mentioning the crisis within Black families. And I said that today, there are only about 30% of Black men and women who are married within Black America. And that is a significant drop. And one of the questions I was asking, this is something I asked on Facebook, because I do a lot of my research questions over there, although not very many people answer me, but we'll keep it moving. I was asking the question to the culture, how long or what do the numbers have to be in order for the culture and Black leadership to really determine that there is a problem, a crisis within Black families? Does the number have to get to 25%? Does it have to get to 15, 10%, 0%? Like, what is going to happen to Black families if there are 0 married couples? What is that going to do for the culture? I argue that it will kill it. It will absolutely destroy it. And therefore, those of us who hold fast to conservative values, we have an obligation to continue putting out here more empowering content that will cause individuals within the culture, within society, within our communities to start looking at ways that we can preserve and conserve a lot of the traditional values that were present for our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors. We cannot neglect those empowering principles all for the sake of progressivism, or all for the sake of progress. We have to go back and start doing things God's way so that we can get these results. So earlier today, as I was looking at some of the data in terms of how we are going to frame more of our content around our program and our empowering message, I came across Pew Research, which, by the way, I love that think tank. They are a non-biased think tank. They do not cater to Republicans. They don't cater to Democrats. It's not liberal. It's not conservative. It's just data, right? So I highly recommend them. And so anyways, you could trust what they are delivering over there. And so as I was searching for some content in order to help me, like I mentioned earlier, to, really frame our program and whatnot, I came across these stats. In 2025, Pew Research came up with this data, which indicated that young girls who are in the 12th grade, unlike previous generations, they are not looking at marriage as something that is a super, super, super top priority compared to the way it used to be, again, decades ago. So let me read to you some of the reasons for that. One of the key findings on marriages indicated that there's a gender flip. In 1993, girls were more likely to desire marriage than boys. And that's typical, right? That was the stereotypical thing. Girls would watch these wonderful Disney fairy tales and they would see their Prince Charming coming and saving the day. You know what I mean? The whole Cinderella effect. And actually, by the late 1990s, we started to even see a shift in the way that marriage was even presented within these fairy tales. I won't go too deep in it, but maybe one day I'll talk about some of my favorite ones, like The Little Mermaid. I digress. Anyways, so, by 1993, girls were more likely to desire marriage than boys. However, by 2023, that trend had reversed. 74% of 12th grade boys desire marriage compared to 61% of girls. So I think it's really interesting for those of you who are interested in that kind of data. What is shifting for the young men in terms of their marriage attitude? I can tell you exactly what's going on with the girls because I have a daughter of my own, and one day I'll talk to you about how I'm navigating this conversation about marriage with her. But it is very interesting to see what is taking place in the culture. What kind of content are the boys receiving that's causing them to want to have marriage more than the girls? Another key finding within this data indicated that there's a declining interest in marriage. The interest in marriage among 12th grade girls dropped by 22 percentage points over 3 decades. This is a steep decline compared to their predecessors. In other words, individuals like myself, right? Another key finding indicated rising uncertainty. So the share of 12th graders of both genders saying that they don't know if they will get married has increased to 24%. And in 1993, it was at 16%. Some other key findings included that this generation, and this is the Generation Z, there's a lower desire for those individuals to have children. The study also found that 12th graders are less likely to say they want to have children if they do get married. Now, I remember when I was in high school, 2001, that's when I graduated. And I remember telling my father how much I wanted to get married. I mean, I'd been doing that since like 11 or something. But anyways, and how I also wanted to have 6 children. So like these kinds of conversations were normal for us growing up. Like it was just we were going to get married. It didn't mean that we had to put aside our vision, our calling, our purpose, or anything like that. But family and marriage was very much so a part of just regular, normal, common sense living for us growing up. But today it is vastly different. We have to also consider that Generation Z, which consists of 14-year-olds all the way up to 29, they are dealing with a very different kind of world and economy, where those of us who are millennials, we're probably the last generation, I would say, who had the crossover. We had, the life experience of no phones, no internet, no social media, and then all transitioning over into having that, all the time. Well, Gen Z has only known this world. They've only known a world where there is social media, there is this internet, there's this this kind of economy. And even within the creators economy, these young folks are looking at a lot of the content that's teaching them a very different way of how to navigate love, marriage, and family. So these factors are really important for us to consider, even as individuals like myself or other organizations like Iconic Marriage are thinking about how can we make marriage more palatable even for this next generation. Here's some other factors to consider. Researchers suggest this decline may be linked to shifting life goals, higher aspirations for personal independence, and different perceptions of marriages. And that is a key factor as well. So if Generation Z, if their life goals require them to have more time, more years of development, then it's natural for them to believe that trying to commit to a marriage, which is a lifelong commitment, that they might want to delay it. And I actually think that's wise of them. I think it's wise when you consider the economy. It's wise when you consider the number of options that they have today. It's very different. Again, growing up, our options was going to college, and even in college, finding our spouses, our potential spouses, if you will, and then having a really great job. Back home, if you could get a union job, that was a really great job. Like, you get what I'm saying? But today it's very different. They have many more options to consider. And with that being said, them asking themselves, do they want to commit to a person for the rest of their life? Like, they have the opportunity to make, a wiser decision. And I actually applaud it. But even with that being said, I still argue that it's necessary for those of us who still hold fast to the traditional values. It's important for us to still provide the leadership training, the support, the mentorship, all of those things that will help them so that when they are ready, whether that is at 21 or 25 or even 30, whatever the case may be, once they are ready to get married, they have the tools, the spiritual tools, the practical tools, the financial support, the community support. All of that is right there for them. And I think that's going to be really empowering. The other thing that I want to add here is, when it comes to the dating scene, especially today, there are so many men who, even though the data suggests that more men are interested in getting married than, I guess I should say the boys, not the men, that they're more interested in marriage than the young ladies. When it comes to dating, a lot of these same young men will tell the girls that they don't want to be married. So whoever is going to be responsible for coaching the young men, I would tell them, you need to train these young men to be confident and very bold in terms of being honest with the young girls. Because I can assure you, if a young man approached, and this is of course once my daughter is of age, if he approaches my daughter and he tells her he's not interested in marriage, she is bound by my law to cut him off. There's no point whatsoever in you even having a conversation with my daughter about a relationship if you don't even have marriage on your mind. So again, that's just my little admonition. Whoever will be responsible for training young men in that particular area, you got to train them to be confident in terms of what it is that they are looking for, why they are in the dating market altogether, and how they can boldly declare to the women that they are interested in or dating or what have you, letting them know off the bat that this is the mindset that they're in. Now, that's just a little bit, that's a little tidbit. So anyways, this data, I'm going to wrap this one up. This data is really important for us, again, as we continue with our promotion of the new CCM Love, Marriage, and Family Leadership Program. We are also targeting Generation Z and these wonderful, beautiful young ladies, helping them to really cultivate what they need in order to prepare themselves, not just for love, marriage, and family, but even those other areas of life, those particular life goals. So when it comes to career and finances and whatnot, all of that is encompassed in our leadership training. So if you're interested in learning more, be sure to read the description below. Click on the link. You can read the full guide. It is very extensive, so you'll know exactly what you're going to experience. And then if you're ready to join us, we have our next, actually our first inaugural leadership program training starting this July. You can click the link below and register immediately. It's just going to be a great experience. So beloved, I bless you, and I will see you for another chat where we talk about a lot of the qualitative and quantitative data surrounding love, marriage, and family, and how we are learning to do things God's way so we get his results. Be blessed.